welcome to this edition of Joy in Our Town. My name's Ann Farrell Tata. I'm your host, and I am so excited today to welcome my good friend, Melissa Dibona. Melissa is the liaison to the Office of the President at Operation Smile, and our issue today is health, and we're going to be talking about cleft lips and cleft palates. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you, Ann Farrell. It's so nice to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here.
What a treat.
So before we start talking about specifically cleft lips, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Operation Smile, how long it's been here, and how it came to be?
Sure. As many people know, Operation Smile started in 1982. Bill and Kathy McGee were the couple that started the whole organization, and it was kind of a fluke. They went on a trip to the Philippines to help out and take care of children. Dr. McGee was a young plastic surgeon, and what they found there was just an overwhelming need. Kids coming out of the woodwork, parents, families bringing baskets of bananas to ask if their kids could be taken care of, and there was absolutely no way they could meet that need. So what they did is they got home and they decided to try to go back, and they got friends involved, packed their suitcases with medical supplies, and made a commitment to return and take care of as many kids as they could, including taking their own children to help out. And that's kind of how Operation Smile was born, really out of a need and out of, the fluke of destiny to bring everybody together to help out.
So the first country they went to was Philippines, and then
Correct.
Now, how many countries?
Now, 32 years later, Operation Smile's had a presence in over 80 countries. To this day, this year we're doing 180 missions in 42 countries. We've taken care of about 240,000 kids surgically and provided about 4 million medical evaluations, free of charge, around the world.
That's amazing.
It is.
Okay, now tell us, what is a cleft lip and a cleft palate?
Yeah, many people think that it's a cosmetic issue, and certainly it is. It's a very visible, very immediate effect that you see on a child, but much more than that, it's a deformity that causes enormous complications. Imagine a baby not being able to eat properly. A cleft palate is a hole in the roof of your mouth. So a baby that's trying to take food in, it's going to go everywhere. There are breathing complications. As the child gets older, there's speech problems, ear problems. In many of these countries, it's also a stigma. So these kids are isolated, they're shunned, and they don't go to school. So these kids are often hidden from society. And you can imagine that without going to school, they become lost members of society. And what we want to do is be able to give them a normal life. And it's a correctable deformity. So it's a solution to this problem.
Now, it's correctable, but can it be prevented?
We are looking into that. It certainly is showing that there are genetic and environmental factors, some B12 deficiencies, folic acid deficiencies. We've got researchers who we're right now taking DNA samples from a lot of our cleft patients. Right now we've got one of the largest repositories of DNA in the world to study this. And there's some indications that smoke inhalation, a lot of these communities around the world rely on wood smoke and cooking fires.
Right.
That smoke can be a factor. So we're looking into all of that right now. So
in the children you do surgery, what is the age range and how early, what's the youngest patient you've had?
Oh, the babies come in, weeks old, that can receive surgery, and we've taken care of adults right up until, the age of 50, 60 years old. It's interesting, in a lot of these countries, you see parents coming from far away that are bringing kids and sometimes grandkids, and they're just worried about that child, but in fact, they may have had the cleft too. And, they've lived 40 years, 50 years with the cleft. For them, it's not important to get it fixed.
Do you offer that?
We certainly do. We certainly do.
Do they take you up on that? Or
they do. A lot of times they try to pretend it's not that big of a deal, that they don't need it done. And oftentimes they're just shy about it. They've never lived any other way.
Right.
And suddenly they get to a place where there are hundreds of other people with a cleft lip, cleft palate deformity, and you talk to them and realize they do want to get the surgery, and it becomes a moment of transformation.
That has to be the best part, is when you see them looking in the mirror for the first time after, or seeing their baby repaired, having it repaired.
Right. A lot of times over the years, having worked with Operation Smile, these faces and the people stay with you, and that's what drives you every day to push harder and take care of more kids.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember one time in China, there was a man that showed up for a screening, the medical screening, and he he was a beggar man, tall, lanky, thin, and looked like a ghost almost, rags, just dressed in rags. And yet he had 4 boys in tow that he had basically rescued from the streets.
Wow.
That all had cleft lips and cleft palates. Wow. One of them he had strapped to the front of him with a blanket. He was carrying a couple just by his hand. So we took care of all 4 of those kids. And you think, here's a man who had nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And yet he found a way to take care of these kids and make his own legacy. And I think,
that is
all of us
amazing.
have something to give, some gift.
Right.
That we can put forward every day. And you might not know what it is, you might not recognize it, but there are chances in life to take these little leaps.
Oh,
and
yeah.
We found, Dr. McGee's fond of saying the world is changed by emotion and not logic.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
That's a good one.
That's so true. That's why we try to gather as many people as we can and bring them together for Operation Smile.
Well, when you go into a country, how do you let people know that you're coming, and how do you find or I'm sure they find you, but how do you communicate that?
Well, we have, in any country where we bring our mission teams in, we have a relationship in the country, and we have a whole foundation built in that country made up of the key medical people in the country and business leaders. We work with the Ministry of Health in each country so that we're invited in and we coordinate efforts to get everybody involved. And it's on the radio, it's on posters, and we do pre-screenings and work with the medical clinics in each country.
So do you train those surgeons in those countries how to do the surgery?
We do. Everything is built on the idea of self-sufficiency growth within a country. So we go into a hospital and all the local medical professionals are invited to partner with our team, and they work shoulder to shoulder, they trade techniques, they share information. And a lot of times what our specialties too, we agree to offer medical training, medical education. And say, for instance, a hospital in the middle of Vietnam, they don't have a lot of the skills that our teams do.
Right.
So we can we can train them in basic life support, for instance.
Yeah.
Life support training for adults, for babies, and these are things that the local hospitals don't always have. So any person that goes to the hospital after an Operation Smile team has been there, the hospital is going to be much better equipped to deal with a trauma or a surgery. Just beyond the cleft lip and palate care, we do elevate the entire healthcare system in a country.
So are you bringing in the materials and what do you bring in when you go? What's involved in a surgery? I mean, I don't even understand how they do it or how long it takes.
Well, for a cleft lip surgery, it's about a 45-minute surgery. Cleft palate is about an hour and a half. And we have to make sure that every piece of equipment and every consumable supply is at the ready for our teams. So we have an advanced team that goes in and does an assessment on the ground with the hospital, and they coordinate on what's needed. And if they need equipment, we arrange to get it there. If they need supplies, we arrange to get it there. And oftentimes, if we get equipment there, then we have an agreement with them where they learn how to use it. They then turn around and do the surgeries themselves. They teach others how to use the equipment. So again, you're elevating the whole capacity for healthcare, better healthcare.
So you leave all the equipment there. Once you take it in there, you are able to leave it.
We do.
That is
incredible. We do
incredible.
bring back a lot of equipment to our warehouse, clean it, maintain it, and then ship it back out again.
Oh, yeah. Now, all right, so 45 minutes, an hour and a half. How many are you doing these a day? How many a day? How many surgeries a day?
Well, generally in every medical mission, we screen about 150 to 250 kids. And we can do operations on about 125 kids at a time. It's about a 5-day surgery week. Very beginning of the morning, 7 a.m. right through until 7 p.m. You get 5 or 6 operating tables lined up, and you just do as many surgeries as you can, given equipment, supplies, people. And then, we have missions happening all the time. For instance, this week we've got teams in the Philippines, we've got teams in Honduras, and teams in Mexico.
That is absolutely amazing.
It is.
So is it one surgeon per table, or does
Generally
it take...
one surgeon, one anesthesiologist per table, and nurses, that support in the operating room, recovery room, post-op, pre-op. We take in a child life specialist. We take in 2 high school students on every medical mission.
That's fantastic.
It is. Yeah, we believe that the students are truly the energy of the organization, and we want to make sure that we are passing the torch and teaching them how to be part of the world and how to add to the global,
Right.
the global
Need.
improvement.
Yeah. And are all the medical staff, are they volunteer or are they paid?
Oh, they're all volunteers. We
So they
have 5,400 medical volunteers who
Wow.
make up the volunteer heart of the organization from all different countries.
And you've been on some of these, I'm sure.
have, yes.
So what is it? I mean, tell me about, what it's like to see the surgery, but then also you have to probably turn people away as well.
Yeah, you're right. That's the hardest part. In every country, there's more need than we can right now answer.
Right.
Just based on a limited amount of funding and a limited amount of resources in each country. So when you get there and you're seeing the faces and you're seeing these eyes that are pleading for their kids to be helped.
Right.
And, it's difficult, and the surgeons have a really difficult time. Everybody that's on the mission has a difficult time deciding. But we have a priority system that's based on a criteria, taking younger kids earlier, and those who have a better chance at a quick, speedy recovery, and the healthy kids. Sometimes in the medical evaluations that we do, you find that certain kids may be sick or they may have some underlying condition, and we have to either give them antibiotics and get them healthy before they have surgery, or we ask them to come back 6 months later, a year later, depending on their situation.
Is this something that they can see in the womb before, and do they know that the child is going to have a cleft lip or cleft palate?
Yes, I mean, sure. Here in the United States and in the developing world, it's a very easily detected condition.
Can they repair it in the womb, or do you have to wait till
in the first few months of life, you can repair that fairly quickly and easily.
That is amazing.
It is
too.
amazing. It is amazing.
So, in the foreign countries, can they repair it like that young, right out of the womb? Basically?
I mean, they could. It's just not without Operation Smile in some of these places. First of all, women don't often go to hospitals to have their babies.
Right.
So oftentimes the only time a child gets to the hospital is if it's sick or the mom's sick.
Yeah.
And let alone you need a surgeon who knows how to do the surgery,
Right.
and the proper anesthesia and all the proper equipment to go with that. So in many places it's just not an option, it's not available. And you have to get over the stigma too. Many times, sadly enough, these kids don't even make it. Sometimes they're with these complications and malnourishment, health issues. They have a higher mortality rate, and oftentimes the families, the parents, say in China, these kids are often thrown in the river. It's a very tough place for some of these kids, and that's what Operation Smile's been trying to do: is intervene, tell everybody that there's a very correctable, easily
There's
fixed
hope.
situation. Lots of hope, yes, absolutely.
And how do y'all get your funding?
We're privately funded, individuals, foundations, corporations. We have global donors. Every country, we try to get our foundations in these countries raising money when possible, but it's the goodness of our donors.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back after the break, we're going to continue this and talk about Operation Smile in Hampton Roads. But real quick, before we go to break, can you give your website?
Yes, it's operationsmile.org,
Okay.
www.operationsmile.org.
All right, I've been joined by Melissa Dibona. We're talking about Operation Smile. We'll be back in a minute.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this edition of Joy in Our Town. We've been talking to Melissa Dibona. She is a liaison to the Office of the President at Operation Smile. And we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about Operation Smile specifically in Hampton Roads. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been amazing information you've been sharing. So we know that Operation Smile is a global organization, but you are very active here in Hampton Roads. Can you talk a little bit about the roles you play here in our community?
Sure. For 32 years, it has all stemmed from Hampton Roads. The energy, the enthusiasm, the motivation has all come from Hampton Roads. And it's funny, when we started, as I mentioned, with the founders starting it, it was a very small operation, and we worked out of storefronts and warehouses in downtown Norfolk. And it became obvious that as the organization grew, so did our need to have a permanent home. And several years ago, Myra Oberndorf, the mayor, donated and gifted Operation Smile with a 9-acre parcel of land. She decided that, well, she recognized that there was an ability housed within Operation Smile to change the world, and I think she, wonderfully placed us in this academic village area of Princess Anne Commons. And so we raised money and made a determination that that money had to be raised separately from the missions, and built a building. So we, about a year and a half, just opened the doors on a brand new global headquarters for Operation Smile.
Now, and you mentioned earlier that you had 5,400 volunteers.
Right.
What percentage of those are from Hampton Roads, or are you drawing them from all over the country?
They are from all over the world.
Oh, wow.
We have, obviously we have a wonderful group of volunteers that are right here in our medical community, but our volunteers are from every country where we do our missions, and every country, even countries where we don't do missions, we pull volunteers and funding from what we call our resource countries. And say, for instance, when we have a mission in, like let's say Morocco, it's going to be far more economical and better if we take volunteers from Italy and send them, rather than get a group from California or wherever. And so we try to be strategic about how we spend our money and how we recruit volunteers and where we send them, keeping, too, in mind the cultures and different geographies where we operate.
Do you always have interpreters on all these
We do. That's pretty critical, especially when you are talking to a lot of the moms,
right, who are probably
or family members, right, who have no idea what they're getting into with their child going into surgery.
Right.
And you want to be very clear in explaining everything and letting them know what to expect. So translations are very important.
Do you bring these doctors and medical staff to train? Do they train here, or do you train them?
We do a lot of coordination and training here in Hampton Roads. For years, we've done what was originally called the Physicians Training Program, and now it's become a larger medical conference. And every May, we bring in doctors and medical professionals from every one of our countries. So this May, we're going to host that again for probably 200 of our top medical professionals.
And obviously the anesthesiologists have to be here, but are they all plastic surgeons, or are they different type of surgeons?
The surgeons are plastic surgeons that are specially trained in cleft palate, cleft lip surgery. We also have craniofacial specialists, but any medical professional that is involved with Operation Smile has to go through a very strict credentialing process to be accepted as a medical professional in Operation Smile. Yeah, and we also adhere to what we call the global standards of care, which makes sure that every child that receives surgery in any place, any country, at any time has the same high quality surgery, regardless of the conditions.
That's fantastic.
It's a safety issue. We like to make sure that everybody's got the best.
Right, and you're just treating everyone the same. I love that. So, and talk a little bit about the student. That you mentioned that 2 students go on each. I mean, how did that come about, and how do you find those students?
Well, I mentioned earlier about Dr. and Kathy McGee and how they started Operation Smile. And one of the first things they did was bring their child, their oldest, on a mission and put her to work in the operating room. And I think she was 13 at the time.
Wow.
And
what was her role?
She was
not with a scalpel, I hope.
Dr. McGee's assistant, handing instruments and whatnot. And they realized that she was tireless and she was interested. And with that, they, obviously got their own kids involved, but spread it out to the schools and said, we want these kids involved because they're the ones that are going to be in charge of the world. We want them to learn compassion. We want them to be kind. We want them to feel like they can contribute in a meaningful way. Whatever it is they do in life, you want them to do it with that in their heart.
Right.
So we've branched out, and now we've got 700 student clubs in the U.S., 900 worldwide.
So it's not just in Hampton Roads.
Oh gosh, no,
everywhere.
It is everywhere. We've got a student programs team, and they manage all the coordinated events that are happening all over the world. And our students raise about $1 million for us with their events. And in exchange, we run all kinds of leadership programs, workshops, mission training. We make sure that any kid that wants to be involved with Operation Smile can be, and they apply to become, leaders in their schools and set up these student clubs, raise money. Right now, we've got I think you might have seen the Rock the Smile that just happened the other night.
Yeah.
We invite 25 schools to take part in a music fest, and kids raise money that way. They do dodgeball tournaments, and it's just incredible to have their energy be behind Operation Smile.
So when, like let's say in California or
Sure.
Arizona or whatever, when you have some of these clubs, do they come here for training before they go on a trip?
Yeah, we do a mission training workshop twice a year.
Oh,
So that
okay.
if you go through the leadership conference, you do all your work in your school clubs, and then you apply to become a mission volunteer, you do have to then be trained to be on a mission. And that we do invite everybody to come to the headquarters for that training. And these two students that end up on a mission, they then have a role to teach others what they've learned and do presentations in school, and do, whether it's the Rotary Club or nursing homes, just to get out there and spread the word.
So I wonder, it'd be really interesting to know how many of these kids, end up going to medical school or become nurses or...
We know they do.
Oh, you do?
We do.
They stay in touch with you.
Absolutely.
And are these only high schoolers, or is this middle school too?
We have middle school, we have high school, we actually have university clubs involved, medical students, residencies, so it's right through the line. And for so long, Operation Smile has been in the business of teaching kids and bringing them into this world. But right now we're getting to the point where we can formalize our role as an educator with our new building. We're right on the brink of building an interactive learning center. And what this is going to be will be the ability for us to partner with the school systems. We're establishing a curriculum that's SOL based.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to be teaching geography and medicine and culture, and bring middle school kids into our headquarters as a way for them to experience the world, hands-on with the latest technology. But I mean, imagine what it's like if they could sit there and touch a button on a map and then link immediately to a child in that community,
Oh,
and
my
talk with them
gosh.
about what their life is like, or what school is like, what their family's like. And that's what we'd like to do for them.
So who's going to be running this? Are you going to have teachers that you employ, or how's that going to work?
It will, again, be built on our partnerships with the school system.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got a lot of business people involved that are excited about the momentum that we're bringing to the school system for this. So we already have a lot of advisors and kids who are willing to put their 2 cents into.
So how do you know how the kids are recruited, and how do you actually, connect with the different schools? How does that process work?
A lot of schools have student clubs that are built by students, for students, with students in it. And kids are always welcome to find it in their school. We also have a student page on our website where they could go to and find clubs and find phone numbers to call people and find out how to get involved.
Well, with only two kids going on these trips, so is this something they have to apply to? Because it sounds like it'd probably be competitive to be selected.
It's competitive, and you do apply for it. What we like to think that anybody that wants an opportunity can get involved. I mean, with so many missions going out the doors all the time, 180 missions a year, there's a wonderful chance that you'll be on a mission sooner or later. And we just ask kids to embrace it and to
Be
take it
patient
in, right?
keep-
And whatever they end up doing in life, if they've had this foundation to learn compassion.
Oh,
And
yeah. What a great experience.
Right, it does stay with them.
So what is the criteria when you're looking for kids that are going to go with you on these trips? Because you have to be a little hardy, I would think, to
You do.
take that trip, and
You
there's
have
probably a lot
to-
of hardship involved.
Right, you're not going to be able to hang out in air conditioning and drink your Coca-Cola. It's hard.
Yeah.
They're put to work, and they're hauling equipment in boxes, and it's usually hot and sticky, and they work odd hours and late hours, and they're part of the team. They have to go to the team meetings with all the medical professionals.
And they're in the surgeries with them?
They are in the surgeries. They're walking the hallways, carrying kids, helping
Oh,
them stop
wow.
crying. They are in the thick of it, and they
Yeah.
come out the better for it.
And
No
do they raise
question.
their own money to go?
They do. Well, they're responsible for a team fee. Every
Okay.
team member that goes on an Operation Smile mission pays a team fee, which I think right now is about $700, and that covers all of the administrative costs and processing. But everything else is paid for through the organization.
Including their airfare?
Airfare, flights, hotels, meals, all the travel that goes with it.
That's fantastic. And are they? But they're raising money too. They're
They
clubs,
do. They
that's what
raise
they're
money
clubs.
for right.
And then it just goes into this general fund that provides all of this.
Exactly.
That is absolutely amazing. So now tell us a little bit about the Walk of Smiles.
Yes,
that you
thank you.
have
The Walk of
going.
Smiles is this very special pathway that we're building up to the front doors of the global headquarters. And these are bricks that are being purchased by those in the community that want a chance to commemorate a child, or because they believe in hope, because they want change. People can buy a brick for an occasion, as a memorial, or for a tribute. But our idea is that this path will end up being 3,200 bricks, which is symbolic of the number of hours that a volunteer team puts into every mission.
Wow.
So with all these bricks and all these messages, it's a little tapestry of the circle of Operation Smile.
Yeah.
So we've got a website that we've built that makes it easy for people to go buy a brick. It's just operationsmilebricks.com. And there are 3 bricks you can choose from: a 4x8 brick, an 8x8 brick, or a 12x8 brick. And there are various pricing, $250 to $1,000 to $5,000, depending on how big you want your message. And but it's a wonderful way to mark an occasion, to remember a child, to put your hope, make a legacy.
Oh, yeah.
And put it down there on a brick.
Well, you have an amazing job, and I mean, this has to be so rewarding for you to see, people being offered hope and change and everything on a daily basis.
Well, thank you. I'm reminded of that Latin term of entheos, which is the God within, and it gives you the word enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And it's always been such a pleasure for me to work for an organization that, it turns the heads of kings and queens and presidents, and yet the most important thing it does is change the life of a child. It's always been a special thing for me.
Oh, and you're a mom too, so that's very meaningful. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. And again, it was a special treat for me to see my friend. But before we let you go, tell the website one more time.
Sure, operationsmilebricks.com.
And then the regular, if anyone wants to become involved.
The organization is operationsmile.org.
Okay. So we've been joined by Melissa Dibona, Operation Smile. We thank you so much for being with us today, and have a great day.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town brought to your home every day. So write Joy in Our Town, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 9